Good evening, and welcome to a meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach held Tuesday, August 6th, 2024 at 7 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Councilmember Bendo.
Present.
Councilmember Lester.
Here.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Present.
Vice President Fiamora is absent. President Finn.
Present.
Let the record indicate the presence of City Manager Dan Creighton and Corporation Counsel Frank DeCranis. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, I would just like to note that tonight was National Night Out for Crime. The police and the community come together, usually right here in Kennedy Plaza, but because of the rain, we were at the Martin Luther King Center, and hence we decided to wear our golf shirts because we thought we'd be outside. Okay.
Thanks, Dan. All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. I hope everybody was able to spend some time at the National Night Out before coming here. Due to the rain, it wasn't the full block party we had hoped for in Kennedy Plaza, but everyone did a good job moving it to the MLK Center and making the best of it. Thank you to the Police Department, Parks and Recreation, CSEA, and the MLK Center for pulling off a nice event. Police officer interaction with the public is usually under stressful circumstances, so it is important to hold events like these to build meaningful trust and relationships. Speaking of rain, we are predicted to get between 6 and 8 inches of it between now and Saturday. Due to the amount of rain, we are under a flood watch through noon tomorrow. The watch is triggered due to inundation, not high tides, so hopefully we're not looking at widespread flooding. City crews are out continuing to clear storm drains and making other preparations for heavy rains. Residents should secure or bring in any loose outdoor items and ensure valuables and important documents are kept in safe, dry locations. There are a couple of great events planned for the next several days that may be impacted by the weather. Totally Taylor, one of the concerts on the beach, Taylor Swift cover group, is scheduled to play on Edwards Beach at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, and Trolls 3 is slated to show as a movie on Lafayette Beach at dark on Saturday. Please keep an eye on the city's social media and website to see if the events need to be rescheduled or canceled. The 21st annual Curb Bike Ride has been rescheduled for Sunday, which presently looks a lot nicer than the next few days. The weather looks to be good on Sunday. Bikers will begin their ride at the Recreation Center parking lot at 9:45 in the morning. This is all a great and well-attended event for a very good cause, so we hope to see you all there. The city's Lifeguard Memorial one-mile swim is also on Sunday at 9 a.m. The swim honors all the men and women who have served on the lifeguard patrol that have passed away. All swimmers over the age of 26 who can swim a mile in less than 55 minutes are invited to participate. Sunday is also the Long Beach Public Library's Fun Fair. Games, bounce houses, music, prizes, and more will be taking place at Kennedy Plaza from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. So if you have time, please check it out. Last of the events, I want to make note that on Thursday at 7 p.m., our Department of Public Works will be presenting to the West Home and Walk Civic Association about the Walk's water main project that will commence shortly after Labor Day. This is a necessary and extremely complicated and long-awaited project. The presentation will take place at the VFW on West Park Avenue and start at 7 p.m. We strongly encourage everyone from the walks to come and learn about the project. Finally, on a sad note, I want to express our condolences to Harvey Weisenberg on the passing of his son, Ricky. Harvey dedicated his life to helping Ricky and other special needs children. Harvey has been a great asset to Long Beach and loves Long Beach. I hope the support he gets from our community will help comfort him during his difficult time. With that, I will conclude my city manager's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, on with the calendar. As previously announced, item 3 has been removed from the calendar. So item 1 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase miscellaneous plumbing supplies and materials on an as-needed basis from the lowest responsible bidders. Okay, this first resolution, as mentioned, was to authorize the city to buy various plumbing supplies on an as-needed basis from the lowest responsible bidder for each particular item. Joe Fabrizio's here if you have any questions.
Just I got a couple just quick questions. The contract is for 1 year with the option for 2 one-year extensions at the same price. If the extensions are executed, does that the extensions come before the city council for a vote, or the city just extends it?
Typically, if it's in the contract, they're not required to come to the council
Okay.
for an extension.
So we're giving potentially up to a 3-year contract?
Correct.
then? Okay. And then the other thing is, yes, in the extensions, prices don't change. In the interim, like say at the end of the first year, is an RFP issued to see if there are cheaper prices elsewhere before the extension is done?
It's up to the city. If we want to extend it, it'll have to be at the same terms and conditions. If we think we can do better, we could put out a new bid.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is a bid put out before the extension is executed to see if there are better prices out
It's
there?
optional.
Yeah, we
based
typically
on-
don't,
Okay.
but typically prices go up. But if we see a reason, if we see prices drop dramatically, we put it back out.
Okay.
It is at our
Correct.
option to say whether we want to go out again or not.
Any other questions? Questions from the public? Okay, close it.
Thank you, Joe.
Item 2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase various chemicals on an as-needed basis for the water purification plant from the lowest responsible bidders.
So this resolution authorizes the city to purchase various chemicals on an as-needed basis from the lowest responsible bidder for each particular item. If you recall, we rebid this item because we only received one bidder for for one of the items for the hydrated lime, I believe it was, at a significant increase. So we rebid it, and it was a positive. We were able to get it from $460 a ton down to $311.35 a ton, savings about a third. Again, Joe is here if you have any further questions.
Questions from the council?
Again, just a quick one. Joe, the hydrated lime's going up 24% from last year, and it's up 48% from 2 years ago. Any idea why hydrated lime is going up so much?
I do not know, quite honestly. No.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions? Questions from the public? Okay, we'll close that.
Okay. Item 3 has been taken off the calendar. Item 4 is a resolution establishing base proportions in accordance with provisions of Article 19 of the Real Property Tax Law.
Okay, so this resolution establishes the base proportions in accordance with the provisions of the real property tax law to set the homestead, non-homestead base proportions for Long Beach. Ray Flammer is here to address any concerns or questions you may have on this item.
Mike, you have a question?
I think it'd be great if Ray could just explain a little bit of it for the public.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ray.
Okay, the base proportions separate the tax levy between the homestead and non-homestead properties, between residential and pretty much commercial properties. Back in '91, when the city did the last reassessment, the city council chose to opt into the homestead option, which pretty much solidified that about 75% of the taxes would be paid by the residential portion of the tax base, and 25% would remain commercial. And this legislation every year limits the shift to 1%. And it's a 33-step calculation that's mandated by the state. It gets reviewed by the state once it's ratified by the council.
Questions? All right, thank you for explaining that. Questions from the public? I will close
Okay.
that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for the operation of the Pro Shop at the city's ice arena.
Okay, so this resolution, as mentioned, allows us to enter into an agreement with Thomas Scala for the operation of a pro shop at the ice arena. This was the only bidder and would be for a period of only 1 year. Joe Brand is here if you have any questions. I will also add that I believe it's 150%. It's not a lot of money, but it's 150% more than we received last year. Joe Brand, again, is here if you have any further questions.
Joe, I notice in the agreement, they're not paying for the utilities. I guess it's just because they're in the building, it's part of the bigger building. I guess the question I have is, do we lose money having a shop there at this price?
Not at all. They don't use much. The only thing that use any type of power of substance would be like a skate sharpening machine, but other than that, it's just the lights that are provided by us anyway. So.
Okay. And
I would just say one thing, though. You may not lose money or make money, but you don't have a good rink if you don't have a pro shop. So if you don't have someone providing some of the things that the people need,
It's definitely a service
they'll
that's
go to
beneficial.
another rink.
without a doubt, but it's not the taxpayer's job to subsidize a business owner either.
No, but what I'm saying is that having a pro shop makes the rink more desirable.
No,
for
no, I
people to
agree
come to.
wholeheartedly.
And by virtue of that, we make more money.
Yes, from your mouth to God's ears, but
That's how we have to try to do it, right?
and in your discussions with the person that's going to do this, are they going to adequately staff it so it's open when it needs to be?
Yes, yeah, it's what
'Cause
I
I
mean.
think that's been a problem in the
Yeah,
past
that's
as well.
the number one complaint. You know, people want to get a skate shop and they want to be able to buy laces, tape, mouthpieces when. Obviously, that stuff's either forgotten or when needed, and it's usually 10 minutes before your next practice or game. So
Yeah.
he's a member of the New York Islander equipment staff.
Yeah, I saw
New York
that.
City firefighter. He also has a connection with one of the employees that works at the rink currently. Based on his recommendation and conversations I've had with him, I think we're doing okay.
And I do believe in section 2.5.13, they put in the language for staffing concerns to make sure that it's adequate at all times, just to make sure that that's aware.
And Brendan, I have a question.
Joe, do we have any, when you talk about staffing, are there any hours or anything like that, or is it basically up to him? When
Well,
he's
it usually gets established around the busier times of day, right? So after 4 o'clock during the weekdays and then all day long on Saturdays and Sundays, that's where, the most hockey's getting played. That's when the demand is there. People show up for practice. Mike, you have children playing the sport now. You need your skate sharpened. You show up a half hour earlier for practice, or a lot of places now have drop-off service. You leave on Wednesday night for practice. You leave the skates there, and they do them at their leisure. When you come back the next time,
But we have nothing, there's nothing set up like that. I mean, like Brendan said, it gives the rink, more of an air of professionalism, but on the other hand, if nobody knows when the person's going to be there, is it possible to put in since we're
Sure.
giving the contract, set hours so that people know? And
Yes.
if he doesn't do it, it would be a violation? And the other question is, Dan, you said it was a one-year contract?
One-year contract, yep.
And the resolution says it's a two-year contract.
Joe, isn't it, I think it's only a 1 year according to the
According
contract.
to
Let
this,
me
it's
see
a
this.
1 year. According to the resolution, it's a 2 year.
Oh, yeah, it does say
Resolution is
that.
wrong.
Yeah, it says 2 years, yeah.
All right, so do we need to amend that?
Yeah, we're going to need to amend that. Joe, I believe the contract's only 1 year.
okay.
So Dave, we have to.
That's what's on the
that's amended.
proposal. So
Yeah, it's 1 year.
All right, I'll make a motion to amend the resolution for a period of 2 years to a period of 1 year.
Second.
Hold on.
Good catch, John.
I mean, along what you're saying, Roy, is that when you're running the shop, it certainly behooves any shop owner to be there at the busiest time. Now, that doesn't mean that at times maybe they won't be, but anybody who's running a business to make money is going to be there
But
when
you
they
know
need
what,
to be.
I have learned, and the same when I go shopping, I want to know that the shop's open when I get there. And that way, if we put in specific hours, then, people can depend on that.
Yeah.
Hold on,
and-
hold on, I got a motion on the floor. Let's finish the motion first. Okay, motion to amend item 5. Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes?
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Okay, continue, sorry.
Yeah, I think one of the issues have been, and, the Hurleys did a great job of running it, it was difficult for them to staff them. They very involved with the hockey program, the lightning board. They're spread thin. But to have kids, we want to establish it and have some set times, at least when we know that they can get their skates sharpened at the very least too, because we have too many people driving out of Long Beach and going to other places in Freeport and Newbridge to get their skates sharpened, obviously. So we hope that we'll be able to negotiate that with them. And also, when we have our new lineup, if we're adding certain public skates or any events, that we should just be in contact with them to make sure that we can it'll be staffed on those particular days.
100%. These guys are eager. They know what they're doing.
Joe, do they do skate rentals for public skating?
We do.
The city does?
Yes.
Okay.
We have, and you just received a big shipment of, which is going to help our public skates, obviously.
Good.
Is Merritt Marine still open, Joe?
Yeah.
Wow. They did a good job back in 1974.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? Questions from the public? All right. Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the reconstruction of Heron Street, north of East Pine Street, with the lowest responsible bidder.
So this resolution allows us to enter into an agreement with Thomas Novelli Contracting, the lowest of 6 bidders for the reconstruction of Heron Street, north of Pine Street. It will include new sidewalks, driveway aprons, curbs, landscaping upgrades, and water and sewer main upgrades, new asphalt and new lighting. Joe Fabrizio, again, is here if you have any further questions.
Any questions from the council?
Sure.
Yes. Joe? Joe, 2 years ago, was it 3 years ago, when we put the bulkheading in under the North Shore project? The
Correct.
bulkheading on Heron Street? There was a lot of disruption at that time, and now we're talking about landscaping. What kind of landscaping are we talking about?
Basically, between the curb and the sidewalk, there's a utility strip, which is about 2 foot 6 inches wide, and that is where they're going to be removing the trees. They're going to be furnishing and installing new trees in that area.
I'm trying to think of that.
They have like a 2 foot 6 inch strip between the curb and the sidewalk. That's cool, and that's like there's grass there and there's trees. So what we do is, we have to take down the trees. We have to.
You're talking about if you're facing south on the right side of the street, left
Yes,
side of the street.
on the east side, correct.
On the east side.
Correct.
No, I don't think there are trees.
Yeah, there's trees. Yeah, there's trees, and there's also a landscape area. It's 2 foot 6 inches wide, and there's grass there. So that all has to be restored. Once we put in the new curbs, the new sidewalks, we put sod back in that area. That's the landscaping. Your block doesn't have that. It only has concrete. This block has a little wider sidewalk.
You're talking the entire block, though.
The whole block, from one end to the other, on the east side, there's a 6 inch wide curb. There's a 2 foot 6 inch wide grass utility strip. Some places have concrete. And then there's a 4 foot wide sidewalk.
Yeah.
And in that 2 foot 6 inch area, that all gets ripped up. Any tree that's in that area most likely will be removed and replaced with a new one. And then we put in sod in that area.
Why wouldn't we go straight to the sidewalk, straight to the street?
It's not really aesthetically, we're trying to beautify the street area by putting concrete all the way there. It's not
Right,
really.
but you're going to be putting those light poles in like you did on.
We're going to put light poles, the colonial
and
poles.
that goes right in the middle of the sidewalk.
Not on that block. It'll be in the 2 foot 6 inch utility strip. Your block is unique where it's so narrow that they only had a 3 foot wide sidewalk and a 6 inch curb, and the street is only 18 feet wide. It's very unusual. You have like one of the narrowest streets in the city.
Yes.
So there was actually no way to have through traffic and have the utility strip.
Yeah.
On this block, you do have that. So the light poles won't be in the sidewalk. They'll actually be in the utility strip. So they won't obstruct any pedestrian traffic at all.
Mm-hmm. So, and how does that affect the the strip that people use as their own, that's the city strip?
That's a whole separate entity. What's going to be happening on this road, as part, let me just go step backwards. Heron arguably is one of the worst streets in Long Beach. It's at the lowest elevation in the whole city. It floods at almost every high tide with a
That's why we put
rainstorm.
the bulkhead in, theoretically.
No, the bulkhead wasn't really put there to solve the flooding. It's twofold. There's a lot of different aspects here, but the bulkhead has two functions, right? It actually holds in the soil, stabilizes the shoreline. That's
Right.
one, and it also mitigates flooding as well. But that definitely was not intended to solve the flooding on Heron. This will hopefully solve the problem
Well,
with
you're
the
gonna
flooding on
raise the
Heron.
street?
We're actually raising this. It's going to be interesting. We're raising the road 8 to 12 inches.
12
We're actually
inches?
8 to 12 inches, depending on the location you're at. We're actually putting in a new subsurface drainage system. Right now, everything drains from Pine Street towards the north end of the street,
Right.
at the dead end. The contour is still going to be that way, but we're putting in a subsurface drainage system, whereas the water will pitch to the north end of the street, but there'll be a drainage pipe that transports it the opposite direction down to Pine, where it'll discharge into the canal. So that outfall that's there now at the dead end won't be utilized. Everything will be going subsurface underground to the other end, so no water should pool at that street end anymore. So we're actually going to be going back onto properties, ripping up their driveways. We're going to try and increase the elevation to the maximum extent practical. We're going to actually eliminate people's, like if they have an 8-inch step going up to their house, we're going to meet that step.
And so
So
how is
we're-
that going to affect, so the grassy place where people put all their stuff, you know?
What's going to happen is, since we're raising the road, we have an item in the contract for cubic yards of fill material.
I'm sorry, to what?
Cubic yards of fill material.
Yeah.
Fill meaning like topsoil. So in certain areas, we're going to have to fill that, because that's one of the problems we're experiencing there, is that this bulkhead is an interlocking system,
Yes.
and when you get a high tide, water actually kind of creeps through, and if it doesn't have soil against it, you'll actually see the water kind of peeing through the interlocking joints. So adding topsoil there, I think, is going to help. Is going to help mitigate that. Plus, one of the other components we're doing here, we're putting a new, when they did the original bulkhead, they actually put a cantilever bulkhead in for about 750 feet where there's no whale. So I know you've heard the complaint where the bulkhead was like bowing out. Well, the reason that's happening is because they didn't have a whale there, a whale and a helical anchor. So for any area on Heron that doesn't have a whale and a helical anchor, we're going to be adding one as well to
But
stabilize
that's part of the bulkheading.
bulkhead.
Shouldn't that have?
That wasn't part of the design. But they actually designed it. Some areas had a whale and helical anchor. Some areas were just cantilever. We were getting a lot of complaints. I've met with many of the residents down there. I know them all by name, on Heron specifically.
But you got complaints because of the height. That's what you got complaints.
Though the height, and also that they feel it's kind of like moving or flexing towards the bay. So I've met with the manufacturer of the bulkhead. I've met with Tetra Tech, the design firm. They feel that there should be a whale. Not a flaw in the design, because they're blaming it on people attaching to the bulkhead.
Well, that's illegal.
Yes, but it still happens,
Well,
unfortunately.
and we do nothing about it?
That's a question
So
that's
now
been...
we're going to pay to put the new whales in because people abuse their bulkhead.
That's not necessarily the reason. The reason is because there's been creeping, in those areas.
That sounds like a design malfunction.
When I brought that to their attention, that was their.
They said it's because people are putting things
Correct.
on. So
Because I tried to pin them
Yeah.
to the wall and say, it's a flaw in their design, and they said, well, it was never designed to take these loads of people affixing themselves to the bulkhead. And it's something we're working on. There are people, if you drive down any of the canals, you can see they put a 45 diagonal attaching
But
to the
that's
whale.
our property.
No, I agree with you. I'm agreeing 100%.
This
No,
is
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's a problem, and it's something that we
And now
need to address.
We're going to bring fill into into our property.
Or
raise
into
it.
our property to help
And they're gonna
correct the
complain
flooding
that-
situation.
That all the stuff that they've built on our property is going to have to be moved?
It shouldn't be, there should be minimal impact, because most of the fill material isn't in areas where it's going to impact any of the things like the decks that they put in. For, like some of them might have like an 8-inch step, so that 8-inch step might be removed and the curb will be at that height and we'll be filling in behind it.
And who pays for that?
Right, it's all part of the project, as part of the $1.6 million project.
The movement of the,
There shouldn't be any relocation work necessary, but it will be site-specific. We'll have to deal with it when we're there. If there are any issues where we have to, something has to be removed, we'll have to deal with the individual homeowner.
so going back to when we put in the bulkhead, they were supposed to pay to move everything and put it back and move the docks.
And they did, yes.
How did we collect that?
What do you mean? How did we collect?
When you said that they paid,
No, it was their response. We met with all the homeowners.
Yes.
We basically told them that they had to remove their facilities from that property because it was city property in order for us to construct it. We basically said, you have to do it or we're going to do it and bill you. That's how we did it because we had to get them out of the way. So what happened was 90% of the people, almost all of them, actually did it. They removed it at their expense.
well, didn't the agreement
As opposed
say,
to us removing it and billing them.
didn't the agreement say we would add it onto their taxes?
But they did it voluntarily. In other words, they did it. They removed their deck, they removed their piles, they actually got out of our way. I was actually surprised at how successful it was. It did work out very well. They did remove it. It was really challenging, of course, at the time. Unfortunately, many of those people have put back their structures, which is probably a topic for another day, quite honestly. Enforcement of that property and should we lease that property and things of that nature. Should there be rules and regulations governing that property? I would think yes.
There are. It's our property.
No, I agree with you.
All right, and just last question, I promise.
Sure, that's okay.
At that time, when we put in the bulkhead, there was a separate contract having to do with the private improvements and existing docks. Do you have any idea where that contract is?
Can you ask that one more? I'm not sure. Can you ask that one more time?
You'll see it on when you look at the blueprints, you see when they're talking about it, it says, all existing docks and private improvements will be removed as part of a separate contract. And then when I tried to find the contract,
There was no separate contract for removal. At the time, we had an annual marine contract that we may have.
An annual what?
We had an annual marine construction contract in the past that we don't have anymore. That was going to be one of the mechanisms at the time to hire the contractor to actually get them off the property if they didn't acquiesce and actually do it. We were going to do it and bill them, but it never came to that, which was.
I'm sorry, a separate.
We had
it a marine contract?
It was an annual marine construction contract that we used to go out to bid for annually. It was to do like tide flex valves and various locations for bulkheading and so forth. But we've tried to bid it out, and we're not getting anybody to pick it up in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Because the prices were so volatile and had a lot of items, and it was very detailed. So we haven't been able to get any contractors to bid on it in the last 2 or 3 years, unfortunately.
Mike, you had a question?
Yeah, just to reiterate, because I've spoken to a lot of people on Heron Street as well. Even before, regardless of bulkhead situations, et cetera, that is one of the probably most flooded blocks in Long Beach.
I would say it's probably the worst.
Yeah, it's probably, even when everybody else says, oh, we didn't see anything, there's a lot of
really
people that can't pull down the street.
I know everybody on that block personally. The city manager and I have been down there many times. I'm sure everybody on this council has talked to someone because it's really bad down there.
The work is necessary.
I'm sure they have every car on their block parked on the bridge right now, worried to death about the 4 to 8 inches of rain that's coming in the next 4 days.
They're probably flooded already.
They've been promised this project for the last 3 or 4 years.
Right. It's been.
And it's here.
Right. We can't kick it down the road anymore.
I mean, I wouldn't, but that's not my decision.
Is there an opportunity for this new subsurface drainage? Does this exist in any other blocks in the canal?
Not like this, no. We're actually putting in a new I think it's a 12-inch or an 18-inch storm drying pipe that's going to take water from the north end of the street along the west side all the way to Pine. So it's 800 feet, 900 feet of drainage pipe that we're putting in on the west side of the street that doesn't exist right now. And it's basically pitching, the pitch of the road will still go towards that end, but underground it's going to go towards Pine.
Right.
And I think that's a good, plus we're going to raise it too. So that, right now the elevation of the street down there is, I think it's elevation like 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like 3 feet above sea level. Yeah. It's probably, most streets are 5 and up.
This could be an opportunity to see if something, could be beneficial for other blocks in the future too.
Absolutely. So I'm confident it's going to work. I reviewed the proposed design with our consultant. I made a lot of changes at the last minute too because I wasn't happy with their design. I actually had them do a lot of changes to elevate the road, and we're going to be going back on some of the properties to raise their elevation as well. So it's pretty involved, and I think it's going to be a success, and it's a long time in coming.
And that pipe is under the street.
That'll be under the street. Yeah, it's a high HDPE pipe, high density polyethylene pipe that will be put along the west side of the road for the whole entire length, pitching from the street at the dead end all the way to Pine. So hopefully there should be no water pooling there like it does now. Like today, I'm telling you right now, with this rain, if it's a high tide, it's going to be half the street from halfway down to the end will be flooded.
I'm sure they've already parked their cars on the bridge.
Yeah, I get photos regularly from the residents. They're very cooperative and they've been working with us, but they've been more than patient. I think it's time.
Yes.
It's a long time in coming.
Absolutely. John?
So, can you provide a little additional clarity of, so we spent a lot of money to put bulkheading in, which was supposed to control flooding, and I think I'm hearing it's not controlling the flooding. Why is that?
It's the purpose of the bulkhead is twofold, right?
I understand, hold the soil back.
Because we've heard, let's put floodgates at the end of the road, right? So,
correct.
Especially on Clark Street, we've heard that. So, our discussion with them was, well, if you that's not going to solve, in Clark Street's case, deterioration of a 60-year-old bulkhead that was it was built in 1960. So it does serve two purposes. One, it does mitigate flooding. Two, it does hold back the soil. However, and we've had this discussion before because I know there was members of the council who felt, well, this is ridiculous. You're building something this high, but it's just going to go around.
Correct.
Of course. My logic, and that's been that way since we've had our discussions, is that we change the code and people, when they build new bulkheads, would have to meet that structure. So ultimately, you had to start somewhere. So all city bulkheads except for Clark Street in the whole city, when the North Shore Bulkhead project, North Shore project is done, will be up to that new elevation.
Right, but if the bulkhead currently on Heron Street is at base flood elevation,
correct. Okay.
why is that street still flood so much?
It's coming up through the catch basin. We've changed the tide flex valve.
So that's a tide flex valve issue.
That's a tide flex valve, which we've addressed countless times on the street end of that block. One, when you get a high tide and a rain, it doesn't matter whether the bulkhead's 12 feet high or 6 feet high. The water is going to back up.
It's coming down on the inside of the...
Right, and that's going to happen today. Like, say, for example, on Park Street. We have a pump station there, but we still get flooding on Park from New York to Nevada. Why? Because if you have a tide that goes higher than the bulkhead, the bay is coming in, and it's not going to pump out the bay. But if it stays below the bulkhead and you have a high tide and a rain, it should pump it and force it out. So there's a lot of different circumstances, but that's why you would have flooding down there if you had a high tide and a rain. There's nowhere for the water to go. It's just going to pool on the street.
It will also go around the bulkhead at where the bulkhead ends. So where it's not up to the same height.
Well, that's the other issue too on the street end on the private property. If it's
I've had that, and I agree with that. But again, that's why we changed the code, right? For new bulkheads, they're supposed to be a newer height. I get it. Yeah, of course. It's going to go around it. The other bulkheads are lower, but you do have to start somewhere, and I still truly believe in that. We could agree to disagree on that, but I still think it's good that we are making the effort to raise all city bulkheads.
The other thing is, and you're not going to be surprised I'm asking this, are we using the same colonial lights we're using everywhere else that are falling apart?
Yes, we are. That's funny, because I anticipated that question. And just so you know, right now our contract for street lighting expires November 1st. I'm actually putting in an item in that contract for pole painting and touch-up, so we can, address these issues. I've talked to the manufacturer, I've talked to other manufacturers. We use 3 or 4 different manufacturers for poles in the city right now. We use Magnaflood, we use Century, we use Sternberg. We have the problem all over because we're in a coastal environment, so we have that saltwater air. Plus, unfortunately, dogs tend to urinate on them, and that doesn't help as well. But we have this, the paint tends to come off on these poles. On Penn, last year, I actually hired a contractor. We actually painted all the poles on Penn. We just wire brushed them and painted them all on Penn between New York and National, and they came out beautiful. And those aren't the ones we're putting in. Those are the old Century poles. The new Magnaflood poles, I notice it all the time. I see at the bases, you see it starting to peel off.
Yeah, if you look at the ones on Pacific, which aren't that old.
They're not, I agree.
The powder coat's coming off them.
I agree.
So, we know it's a problem.
I'm putting that item in the contract so we can address that. I also spoke to our beach maintenance department. What I was going to also recommend, if they're willing to do it, I was going to get the paint from the manufacturer, because I'm sure they'll give it to us for free, and have our people actually potentially do it as well. I've been kicking that around internally. I think they'll do it. We have to talk about it, though. In other words, getting the paint from the manufacturer, because it really isn't a big deal. Like if you wire brush it and you paint the base, it really does work and it lasts. And I think maintenance, unfortunately, the more of these poles we put in is going to become a problem, because we have quite a few of them now. We probably have upwards of maybe 200 now.
Yeah.
In the city, between the small ones and the big ones.
Yeah, I think it's just an issue of having a preventative maintenance program in place.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's what we're doing 2 things to help with that. One is I'm going to put the item in the maintenance contract for pole painting. 2, internally, suggesting that we actually get the paint ourselves, hopefully for free,
Yeah.
and just have our guys do it. Okay.
And just one other thing. So several years back, the city adopted the Complete Streets program, and which talked about minimizing heat islands. And in our comprehensive plan we just adopted, it also talks about minimizing heat islands. But
You say heat islands? Is that
heat islands.
I'm not sure what's a heat island?
Heat islands is when you pave over something or repave, and you create a surface that retains heat, and then in the cooler parts of the evening re-radiates it out. And black asphalt is one of the big issues of heat islands. So we've adopted several things saying we should be minimizing heat islands, but we keep doing things to make it worse. Have we ever looked at, and I think you and I had this discussion before, about alternative materials, or there's coatings I've seen out there that could be put on the asphalt it's basically almost like a paint that lightens it up so it doesn't absorb and re-radiate as much heat. But, or I guess another question is the obvious one, and I know the answer already. We use asphalt because it's cheap compared to redoing concrete. How much more is concrete, too?
It's astronomically more,
Okay.
for sure. Absolutely
Which is
astronomically
the right
more.
way to do it, but
recently, I have to be honest with you, I
expensive.
haven't looked into any type of coatings to reduce.
Are there other materials out there that might be
not that I'm
lighter
aware
in
of that's
color,
used
or?
in large quantity like we do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not really familiar with that. But we can look into it. Sure.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. Question from the public? Yes.
Hi, good evening. In reference
Oh,
to
name for the record, please.
Karen Riskin,
Thank you.
Hi, Karen.
in reference to the changing of the bulkheads and doing on Heron Street, my house is between Wade and Heron. Every storm I get flooded. I barely finished cleaning up from September, and now I hope I don't get anything from this. My question to you is this. Your work would not go lower than Pine? So in other words, it's not going to affect anything on Eastchester?
No, it should have no impact on East Chester at all.
No, well, that's good to hear. But, and now I just have another simple question. Many months ago, I called the department. There's a huge hole on the grass area, right above where there's a piping that goes underneath. I don't know what the relationship is, but I'd like to know if that's ever gonna get filled in. It's just covered by a cone.
If you, yeah, where is this? If you give me the location, I'll absolutely check it out.
I mean, I think of somebody putting their ankle in there.
Yeah, no, that's terrible. Do you have, if you can give me the location?
Between Boyd and Heron by the water.
Boyd and Heron is it on the road or is it
No,
on,
it's right up against the fencing. For the water.
is it possible you could send me a photo with the location? I'll go down there. I just want to make sure I'm looking in the right
Yeah,
place.
there's a cone on top of it.
So it's between Boyd
I'm
and,
sure the cone sits there.
okay, I'll take a look and if, we'll take care of it.
All right, so we're not gonna get affected by any
No.
of that.
Nope.
Are you gonna do any work lower afterwards?
South of Pine?
South of Pine?
We have nothing, nothing at this point, no.
Now, I
No.
know they have the sewer line set up. Are they gonna start doing that?
We don't have any, we don't have any other planned work in that area right now.
You just marked the street up.
It's possible someone was it's called a mark out. If someone's doing any excavation whatsoever, they have to call it a mark out to the New York One call center. It's called 811, and they have to mark out the street. It's a common practice, but they do paint the street, and it could be unsightly.
No, slightly, it's just curious.
Oh, okay. Sometimes people get upset if you see the paint marks all over. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the public? Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
All right. Item 7 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law correcting local law 5 of 24, amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding city officers, their general powers and duties. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held on August 20th at 7 p.m. Item 8 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a mandatory bond ordinance of the City of Long Beach, New York, amending and restating bond ordinance adopted April 4th, 2023. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held on August 20th at 7 p.m. Item 9 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding building code and Appendix A zoning. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held on August 20th at 7 p.m. Item 10 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding apportionment of city assessment and city taxes. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held on August 20th at 7 p.m. Finally, item 11 is approval of minutes from July 16th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Okay, and on to the voting. Okay. So item 1 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase miscellaneous plumbing supplies and materials on an as-needed basis from the lowest responsible bidders. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
Second. Sorry.
Give it to Mike.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Item 2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase various chemicals on an as-needed basis for the for the water purification plant from the lowest responsible bidders. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
Second.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Item 4 is a resolution establishing base proportions in accordance with provisions of Article 19 of the Real Property Tax Law. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I'll second it.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for the operation of the Pro Shop at the city's ice arena. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
Come on, Mike, that's got to be you.
I will.
Second?
I'll second it.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
I really hate to vote on something where we only got one bid, but it is for 1 year, and as President Finn said, it does give us a look of professionalism or enhances the rink, so let's give it a try, but hope it works.
That's a yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's give it a try. Yes.
Got to hear the word. Okay, Councilmember Reinhardt.
Thanks to the Hurleys for managing it in the past. Look forward to the new. Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the reconstruction of Heron Street north of East Pine Street with the lowest responsible bidder. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Good. Don't matter.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
No.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law correcting a local law 5 of 24, amending the charter of the city of Long Beach regarding city officers, their general powers and duties. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an amendatory bond ordinance of the City of Long Beach, New York, amending and restating bond ordinance adopted April 4th, 2023. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I'll
Second.
Who got that? All right, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Item 9 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding building code and Appendix A zoning. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
Yes. I'll second it.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
And finally, item 10 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding apportionment of city assessment and city taxes. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
Second.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
City Manager's monthly personnel report has been filed by the city clerk. Who will make a motion to close the meeting?
I will.
Second?
Second.
Voting, Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Reinhardt.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Richard Budman. Good evening.
Boozman, 214 Monroe Boulevard. I have to read what I have to say. I have an advancing case of CRN. Can you hear me now? All right. Joe Brand did a terrific job of relocating the bocce courts in time for this year's season to begin. The old courts were in the way of the seawall construction. 38 teams and more than 150 players are having a great time thanks to Joe, and I thought you ought to know. He really deserves a hand. Bocce is becoming a popular sport, especially on Long Island. It's a lot safer than pickleball. The physical therapists, surgeons, my neighbor had a pin put in her hand.
I'm afraid of
and the
pickleball
chiropractors
myself.
are having an absolute ball. Recently, Long Beach was represented by last year's winning team, Turkey Eyeballs, against teams from all over Long Island and the town of Huntington. I was there. A good time was had by you all. It was an eye-opener. There were a lot of people there. Next, I'm the CEO of the Long Beach Diamonds Bocce team. We are the eldest, and we are the elders, and I'm the eldest. I've been authorized to throw down the gauntlet and challenge you, the city council members, to a best 2 out of 3 bocce games once the season is over in September. The purpose is not to humiliate you. It's to convince you that bocce might be another way to draw people from other areas to Long Beach to help support our local businesses. Long Beach is known as a recreational town. The more activities we have, the more people will visit and frequent our businesses. The bocce ball is in your court. And Roy, no Speedos. Thank you for listening.
Great. We're making Roy the captain of the team.
Nice job, Joe.
I just found the spot and gave some design pointers. The guys from Beach Maintenance that built the 5 bocce ball courts, I mean, they took a tremendous amount of pride in doing it. They built, I would say, a state-of-the-art set of courts. They're the ones that really deserve the hand, and I just want to make sure that was public.
I love good news at Good and Welfare. Ron Paganini, more good news. I hope so.
Anyway, Ron Paganini, Long Beach. Council, good evening. Corp Council, Mr. DeCranis, good evening.
Good evening, Ron.
Well, I've been disturbed over this for a long time. And I've been hoping to fix this place. It's about the housing authority. Okay, now, the New York State and the federal government fund the housing. They fund it like everything else. I'm just going to make statements here, and I want, what I'm going to say, it's not against anybody up here. It's basically educating possibly some of yous, and of course, the residents. So they do fund whatever, it trickles down. So what I'm trying to get at, I want to cut through the fat and fix this place. Does the New York State housing know that rents are not being collected? I'm hearing millions of dollars. It could be 100,000. I don't know the numbers, but there's a problem. Should they be notified? And there's possible discrimination happening. We know that. I knew this in 2020. I had mentioned it to Donna Gaydon and the Bender administration, but they never got around to doing anything about it. It's going on for 8 years. 8 years. So it wasn't started with the Bender administration. It wasn't started here. It was started with the Aramo administration. And the director and the trustees. So let's get down to the bottom. So do they know, do you know, does the city know that Mr. Cruz and some of the trustees voted to sell one of our buildings about 1.5 years ago? They decided they were going to sell a building here.
They call that rad?
Yeah. And there's other parts to that, but you know that. Okay? They got some there, but they lost.
It's complex. It's very complex.
Yeah, it is.
Designed that way, right?
Yeah. So it didn't pass by one vote, and I thank that person who basically stopped that. But think about what they were going to do. These are the same people who were there. Does the city know, the residents, problems in housing have been going on for 8 years? I told you that. So who's paying this lawyer who's representing the trustees and director, Cruz? Who's paying this lawyer to represent them? Why do they need a lawyer if there's nothing wrong? The bottom line is this. The city council, corp council, you got to wash your hands of this thing. contact the state, call for an investigation, let them do it, and an audit. This can't be hidden anymore. This is where we have to go. It's over. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up, and it will be investigated. Karen Riskin.
Hi, hello
Hi, Karen.
everybody again.
How you doing?
Can you hand this out, please? So everybody could sort of read along and look at it at your leisure afterwards.
Thanks.
Thank you. This has to do with what's going on in Virginia, and they're sending this to us because they think that we should be aware of it. So this is an article that they printed, and it's the Dominion, it's Virginia Cable work happening right now, held a public meeting regarding the mitigation and measures put in place over 6 months after the issues began with their work on the Virginia offshore wind cable landing site. To give them credit, they had cookies and water for us, and this constant beeping from the trucks and excavators has decreased. However, in regards to the other 90% of the problems they have caused us, it was the same old song and dance from Dominion. Thank you, Julie Brown and Vice Mayor Rosemary Wilson, for sharing the real truth in this interview. Our homes are shaking from the work next door in a small earthquake-like movements of the ground shaking, and Dominion denied it in the meeting. Also in this interview, the Vice Mayor states, I called Dominion and said, 24/7, are you kidding? That's too much for anybody to take. Despite this, the work went on 24/7 last night, and the pounding and the shaking continuing as I type this. To add insult to injury, we were also notified that the pile drivings may now continue into March of 2025 rather than August 2024. As we've been told until now. Take notice, everyone, once this starts, citizens and local elected officials have no power to stop it. To our friends here in other states and countries, don't let big wind in. Bait and switch and moving goalposts, that's how the game is played. Once granted the power, they have dominion over your neighborhood and town. Long Beach has to get more involved in fighting Empire One. That cable and pounding of the turbines will be heard by Long Beach. There is no benefit to Long Beach for this. Are you saying that the installation of the turbines will be heard and felt by us here in Long Beach? I believe they will be 18 miles out on the ocean, and I hope that isn't the case. As for installation of cables on our island and through our streets, we are committed to stopping that. This should be clear to everyone. And don't forget, in addition to the cables, there is also the pounding of the installation of the offshore substations, which will be 10 to 15 miles offshore. The above dock impacts the mammals and the fauna, and the dock that refers to impacted locations around Long Beach Island Park and Oceanside. Choose obscure locations. Thank you.
Thanks. We haven't changed our opinion on this, and I actually had a conversation today with the Corporation Counsel, with Mr. DeCranis. We haven't changed. We're opposed to it. We have been. We continue to be.
Well, what can we do to move it along? This is getting crazy. I mean, they're coming out on the ocean and they're measuring. They sent out information that they're sending all the boats out to do their little markings and tests, and they told us to back off, that we shouldn't be in the water. This is our season, and our fishermen, and why should we back off because that's what they want to do. We didn't ask them to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Wanda Brooks?
Evening, Wanda Brooks. Two things. On the city's website, it has the street names of the parks. And for Leroy Conyers Park, it has Park Place. The street has been changed several years ago to Reverend J.J. Evans Boulevard. So we need to update that. And the second thing is I would like an update on the North Park infrastructure project.
You mean a verbal update or a written
Yes.
You want Joe to give it now, or you want him to? It's up to you.
I think we'll have Joe prepare one for the next meeting.
I can't get like a little short one tonight.
Okay? I don't know if he's prepared for it. I guess he's always prepared. He's a good
Yes,
Boy
he is.
Scout, right?
He's always prepared.
Thank you, Joe.
It's my pleasure. First, I just wanted to mention one other thing too, because I know there's another project that we've talked about is Sherman Brown Park. That the bids are due on Thursday for that project. So hopefully we get good numbers in. We'll be awarding that probably at the next council meeting or the first one in September. As far as the North Shore Critical Infrastructure Project, you know, it is moving along. We're probably about, I would say, 50%. We're at the 50% completion component at this time. It's supposed to be completed. The scheduled completion is October, but realistically, it's not going to be done until July of 25. So we're probably about 7 to 8 months behind schedule right now. A majority of the bulkheading is complete. They're working on what's called the pump station. That's going to relieve all the flooding on Riverside Boulevard. We still have to build. It will. It will. I mean, this pump station is a beast. I'd love to show it to you sometime. Actually, I've taken the council on tours. I mean, unless somehow it goes over the bulkhead, you know, it's going to absolutely remove all the water from Riverside Boulevard and the surrounding watershed. So the main obstacles right now, and which is postponing this project, is one, National Grid. We have 226 high-pressure gas mains that basically bisect the problem, a project west of the Long Beach Bridge. And we've been going back and forth trying to come up with a final design to build over their facilities for almost a year now. We're finally just about there with the final design for that area. We have to get a proposal now from Basilico for the revised design, and then we're going to have to authorize that revised design. It's probably going to be a lot more money than we had budgeted, so that's something we have to deal with. The other issue is the Long Island Railroad. We have to plan what's called a track outage, most likely for January, February, where we actually have to stop service into Long Beach so we can build the proposed stop log system across the tracks. So that's going to be done in January, February. So those are two of the biggest obstacles right now that we have. Otherwise, the work is actually progressing, you know, quite well. So.
Well, I know there was an issue with not knowing where the wires were.
That's another issue. East of the railroad tracks, PSE&G has subsurface electrical utilities, and they cannot locate them. Still. So they have reached out to Basilico for a change order to actually do test pits with a Vector truck to try to locate their facilities, because they do not know where they are east of the tracks. It's like apparently it's right east of the tracks. They have conduits crossing the channel. They don't know exactly where they're located or the depth. So that's still going on. So, you know, I would say the utilities, meaning National Grid, Verizon, the Long Island Railroad, have really been the major obstacles for the project. And if it wasn't for those things, I think we'd be on schedule. Unfortunately, we're not. That being said, you know, we are making good progress. We meet every week, every Tuesday regarding the project, and it is moving. It's just a little slower than I'd like.
And
Okay.
I like also, but
Yeah.
we're moving. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Joe.
you're welcome.
I would like to request that Joe gathers information so that the next meeting he can inform us in an official meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we're having a big meeting on the walks next week, which we'll be preparing for. It's just going to take up a lot of time. But I probably, like, if it's okay with everybody, maybe in like September or so, I'll have the consultant in to do another update. Because, as I mentioned to Dan, since we're behind schedule, there's going to be a change order from our consulting firm for the additional inspection services. That's going to take us from October, November to next year through July. And honestly, that might be the opportunity when we're going to be approving that change order potentially to have them come in and give an overview of the project as well with me. I think that might be a good idea.
Okay.
So it may not be the next meeting, but I promise you we'll do it probably in like September or early October. How's that? Okay?
Okay,
All right.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, we can also talk at some time. Maybe we do a community outreach as well.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Good idea.
Tim Kramer?
Hi, Tim Kramer, 361 East Broadway. I just have a couple of observations. The first one is, it looks to me like beach attendance is way off this year. Has the city noticed any kind of like drop in annual beach sales or?
Beach sales are up significantly.
Really? Because it looks off, and I was just concerned that the one lady had brought up if we lose money or make money on the beach, and there is a loss, and I was just concerned that next year would be a larger loss, but it just looks off to me. And then the second thing I wanted to bring up, about a month ago, I got a letter from I know this doesn't really apply to this body, but I just wanted like a public service announcement, if you will. I got a letter from my homeowner's insurance, and I got word that the company I was insured with is no longer either insuring or leaving the state or whatever it is. And I then proceeded, to try and replace that with other companies. And I'm at the moment, I'm getting quotes of like 2.5 times what I was paying. And just wanted to put that out there because this is not only going to be an issue for myself. This is going to be an issue for everybody that lives and owns real estate, in New York State, really. Quite honestly, it's happening all over the country. New York State, Florida, a lot of your coastal states are really being affected by homeowners insurance. And I just wanted to mention that, with, whether it's homeowners, flood, local, state, county taxes, cost of electricity, they just continue to skyrocket out of control. And what it's really doing is stripping, whether it be a homeowner or a business, of wealth. And, it's a real concern for me because, my wife and I, we put kind of a lot of eggs into our basket as far as our home is concerned. But, just to be clear with my homeowner's insurance, I'd never filed a claim. Okay, and the reason they gave me that it's going so much higher is that the cost per square foot, they are demanding $350 per square foot, as opposed to where I was, $200, where I was prior to that. So, everyone's going to be getting tremendous increases with homeowners, going forward. So,
That's not good news, huh?
no. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Tim. I'm afraid to go to the mailbox. Jennifer Sarafin? I didn't mix them up either. I didn't see you coming up, or I just would have said come up.
Jennifer Sarafin, 107 Neptune Boulevard. Okay, so I'm going to start with, we are all seeing the devastation of the broken turbine blade in Nantucket Beach, and the fiberglass has been found on Block Island now. The turbines are 12 to 15 miles offshore from, actually, I think they're even further from Nantucket. I think they were actually 30 miles out. And there was a good neighbor engagement. Where I think they were further than 12 to 15. I think they're 12 to 15 from us. But I think Nantucket, they were further out. But anyhow, there was a good neighbor engagement between Vineyard and Nantucket Select Board. I'd like the city manager to ask Equinor why they do not have a neighbor agreement with the South Shore communities. Surely we will see broken turbine blades washing up on the South Shore of Long Beach, and we will have to pay to clean that up. And I'm not talking about Equinor 2, I'm talking about Equinor 1 that's going to Brooklyn. Who will be responsible for that cost? What about surfing schools? Will we be closed like Nantucket? Local businesses on the boardwalk, Riptides, Beach Burger. What will happen to us? We stopped 2, but we didn't stop 1. We weren't allowed to have any engagement in that because they said we had no precedence because the cable wasn't coming here. But now looking at Nantucket, do we have precedence? The city council really needs to look at that.
We've discussed it, but right now they're not moving forward with Empire 2.
No, Empire 1 is moving forward.
Right.
To Brooklyn, but it's going in our ocean. It's going to wash up on our beach.
Those are federal leases. I don't want to argue this because I don't mean that I don't want to argue.
It was a federal lease, but Nantucket had a good neighbor agreement. That was a federal lease, but the town of Nantucket, they still had to do something with them because Nantucket said, what happens when that blade breaks? And it broke. You really, guys, really should look into this. The lawyer. I mean, I think that's who would look into it.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, because you got to think about it's going to come up on our beach, not Brooklyn's beach. It's going in our water, even though it's federal.
They may not know if it came up on their beach, but
So that's why they had the good neighbor agreement. We've been watching those videos and those cases, and it's a big deal. And they were 30 miles out. Ours are going to be 15. I have just one other question before I go. The lawyer that was hired to be our consultant, Mr. DeCranis, I know he's on the party now as Article 7. Is there any way we can see what he's done with renewables? Like, does he have any references or, I'm just curious.
He's been retained by the city. I've looked at his references and what he's doing and other things and projects that he's done. He's well aware of what's going on. Our purpose of hiring him is to stop anything going through Long Beach, and that's what he's hired for. If there's nothing going through or there's nothing being pushed at this point, I don't want to run up our bill.
Okay.
You know, but I did forward him this article, and it was sent to me, and I forwarded him the article for his information about the wind turbine in Nantucket. So he's aware of that. I want to make him aware of all of the other things, and also what you just mentioned before about Equinor with.
That's 1, not 2.
With 1, I understand that, and I'll discuss that with him.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you. Christina?
Here you go, here's some reading material while I lull you to sleep with some turbine facts. So I just want to clarify what Jennifer was talking about. Those turbines are 15 miles from the Nantucket shore, and Nantucket received a good neighbor agreement. They're not going through, the wires aren't going through Nantucket, but they received $1 million over a certain amount of years. And I definitely think that Mr. LaSquadro should be looking into a good neighbor agreement for Empire 1, which is the turbine project that is closest to us that is not coming through here and going to Brooklyn. So I just want to read some facts about turbines. You know, turbines use, they're the worst kind of energy that's ever been created. They use gearbox for bearings. They use SF6. This is the most lethal carcinogen we have on the planet. 23,000 times worse than carbon dioxide. These oils leak into the ocean. Just a few gallons will contaminate 1 million gallons of the seawater. It's an intermittent form of energy. When we need it, it won't be there. As you know, Nantucket had a blade failure, 60 tons of fiberglass and foam. We're having the balloon people come here and we're taking away our straws, but 60 tons of fiberglass fell into the ocean. All of the cost will be blanketed onto the consumers. And to store this energy from offshore wind, they're going to try to put these high voltage cables through our community. They will not be stopping Propel New York. That is coming. And then on top of that, they want to put explosive battery substations in Island Park in the Barrett Power Plant, 200 megawatts of lithium battery plant. That's terrible, dangerous, and explosive. And then I just want to mention something about the substations. Substations take in one substation takes in 3 million gallons of cold, clean ocean water, and then uses it to cool the electric wires, and then adds chemicals to it, browns it out, and throws it back into the ocean. 3 million gallons a day. We're getting 2 substations for Empire 1 and 2. We'll have hundreds of these across the eastern seaboard. So that's millions and millions of substations and water contamination. So because of the Nantucket, we did some figures. One resident stated the industry, 0.5% of blades will fail. If they get the amount of turbine blades they want in the water, then we will have, each turbine has 3 blades. We'll have 27 failures per year. That's 2 per month. They will destroy our beach life, our commerce, our real estate values, businesses. This is a catastrophic project, and we do need to get in the way of Empire 1 and Empire 2 if at all possible. Today, I went to go see Ed Raw to try to encourage participation with the other political leaders. I do a lot of work, tons of work, more work than I do for my own business. I'd love it if some of our elected officials would start meeting with other elected officials to raise awareness. You're all educated, I know you are. You need to start talking to other people and getting them involved and getting them to be outspoken. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, Christina. Bob Johnson left. James Hodge. Batting cleanup. Or anchoring the relay. How do we want to call it?
James Hodge, 95 East Fulton Street here in our great city. I just want to take a moment of silence in honor of Ricky, the late son of a dad to me, Harvey Wiesenberg, and so Ricky's a brother to me. Also take a moment of silence, and I say her name loud and clear, Sonia Massey. Sonia Massey. Sonia Massey was tragically murdered at the hands of a rogue, delusional, whatever you want to call them, cop, who went through about 6 departments and was kicked out of them, and I'm not sure exactly how he got into the department that he was in, but anybody that don't know her name, and I have police officers in my family, and I have police officers that I'm very close friends with, one of them being an uncle to me, Uncle Phil, and the Long Beach Police Commissioner, and others, Corbett and Curtis and others, and Sergeant Murkison was one of my heroes. Again, when someone is bad and they do something, we should call it out. Again, PJ was also a great friend of mine, and we tragically lost him in the ocean. I loved PJ Patrick Bradley and also Commissioner Brown and so many others. I worked with them and did a lot of work with them. But again, this was a road cop, and we need to be able, we take moment of silences for so many others, and let us be able to recognize when something is a national tragedy. And so I say Sonia Massey's name. Also, I'd like to say that we didn't recognize that today is a great day. Today is the 59th anniversary of the Voters' Rights Act. That act was so important to help out the rights of black people being able to vote and also being able to have the different privileges that everyone else have without taking all kinds of tests and literacy tests to be able to vote. So we celebrate that, and the city should always celebrate great legislations and bill passed. Also, I would like to say, you know, our social media. Is it a social media for just the President Finn and Fitzpatrick and D'Epposito? I've never seen our Facebook promote so many people when our great city manager does the day-to-day operations. And yet, every post that I see, hey, maybe it's what you guys want. But I think that the city manager, with his diligent knowledge in bringing our city together and all the work he does, should get way more credit on social media than he does. You don't see Fitzpatrick ever say your name on Facebook, but we always promote her. You don't see D'Epposito ever say your name on his social media, but you always promote them. Are we promoting all of the Republicans when they support Project 2025? Do we support them when they're trying to take away women's rights to choose like they did in 1920? Thank God that women can vote now. So I end by saying thank you for your time, and also remember that we should have let everybody know about the mask law that was voted on last night too, which is crazy. It's a $1,000 fine and you can get a misdemeanor. And also Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Let's support democracy.
Have a good night.
I'm handing you
Thank
these.
you.
These are from the family of Nicholas Stone and for Adam that passed away, and they're looking to get a bench in his honor here in the city of Long Beach. I'd like to enter those for the record of good and welfare into the meeting. Thank you. It's okay.
Thank you. That's it, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. Arrive home safely. Hopefully we will weather this storm. I hope it's not as lengthy as they say it is, but we will survive and we will thrive. We are Long Beach.